Hi, welcome to this Facebook Live event in partnership with YWAM Frontier Missions. And today we're going to stop and ask the question, what is a mobilizer and am I one? And so definitely today there is a growing awareness of what mobilization is, the vital role of the mobilizer. I'm very encouraged by the growing awareness in the body of Christ about these topics. And yet I have a sense that there are many in the body of Christ who would not label themselves a mobilizer, but they have a heart for God's world, for the lost, an understanding of the Great Commission, and they're actually intentionally helping others to become more aware of God's world and their role in the Great Commission. Are they mobilizers? So, hi, I'm Bevan Ginder, founder of Global Cast Resources, and I'm an international missions mobilization trainer with YWAM Frontier Missions, and have over 20 years of experience of mobilizing, equipping, sending, and sustaining short and long-term workers to the most unreached parts of God's world. So as you connect, would you go ahead and hit the like button or the wow face, and then also leave a comment as to where you're connecting from. That'd be great. So perhaps as we get going here, it would be helpful to start with some definitions. One very simple definition of mobilization that I like is to set into motion, just to set into motion. And yet I also like these definitions from Wesley Tillis. One goes like this: essentially, mobilization refers to any process in which God's people are awakened and kept moving and growing until they find their place in their strategic involvement in the task of completing world evangelization. And mobilizers are those who channel key resources, training, vision for world evangelization to the body of Christ. And it's been said that to improperly appreciate and support the role of mobilizer is to seriously hinder the functions of goer, sender, and welcomer. Welcomer just being those who are helping welcome the nations that are coming into our cities. So a mobilizer is simply those who are helping God's people find their place in Jesus' Great Commission. And yet there are many who are doing this who would not label themselves as a mobilizer, right? So perhaps a related question here is being a mobilizer a calling? And if so, where does that fit into the fivefold ministry callings? Well, I'd like to start maybe with a story where I actually had a literal dream when I was very young. And in that dream, there was this bearded, scraggly old guy put his bony finger in my face and said, "Blow that trumpet, boy, blow that trumpet." And I kind of woke up with a start, and all I remembered other than the old guy was Isaiah 58. So of course I looked it up, and Isaiah 58 talks about blowing a trumpet. And I honestly didn't really understand what that was about until maybe over a decade and a half later. I went through the Kairos course, which is a great missions mobilization tool, by the way. And then I stayed on to become trained as a facilitator for that Kairos course. And during the training, they actually brought up Isaiah 58 and said, this refers to the prophetic role of mobilizers. And I was like, oh my goodness. So yeah, I definitely agree. And since then, I actually saw Numbers 10, 1 and 2 that talks about two trumpets. One that is to wake people up, and the second one is to tell them where to move. Two trumpets. So definitely I agree with the folks there at Simply Mobilizing that mobilizers have a prophetic trumpet blowing role in the body of Christ. And yet what about mobilization as it relates to the other four of the fivefold ministry gifts? Do they integrate there? Well, of course, we all probably can think of a pastor who is doing a great job of pastoring his people, taking care of his sheep. And yet at the same time, for those who are called cross-culturally, he's intentionally helping them launch successfully. Yeah, there are pastors today who are measuring success by their sending capacity more than their seating capacity. And that is really good news. So definitely mobilization can and should be an integral part of that ministry calling of pastor. And perhaps I'm an example of somebody who's called and wired as a teacher, and yet I have a heart to see people find their role in the Great Commission. So I'm talking about the biblical basis of missions in the state of the world. And I think there's a lot of work to be done in that area. Recently, a research result came out of Barna, the research group, and they said that 51% of the churchgoers in the United States don't know what the Great Commission is. So definitely that's a mobilization challenge, and we need more teachers with the heart of a mobilizer. Well, and also the sent ones, or the apostolic. They can go pioneer new things and then invite or mobilize people to come and join them. So leave a comment if you think that mobilization can be integrated with the fivefold ministry gifts. All right? So another thing I'd like to propose to you is that mobilization is very closely connected with discipleship, right? Think about it. We know we want every disciple to be, every follower of Jesus to actually be a disciple. And disciples are those who obey the teachings of Jesus, obey the commands of Jesus. And one command of Jesus very clearly, of course, is go make disciples of all nations. So if we're working with believers and we're helping them obey the commands of Christ and helping them, then one of them, those things needs to be helping them find their role, find what obeying, discipling, making in the nations looks like for them. So definitely, I think that discipleship must include this aspect of mobilizing people into their role in the Great Commission. What do you think? So mobilizers are just leaders and disciplers who have caught God's heart and his heart for the lost and are willing to leverage their influence to help those in their sphere to catch God's heart and find their place in it. And whether they use the label mobilizer doesn't really matter or not. It's not important enough. So would you leave a comment if you think you would use that label or are using that label for yourself in your present role? So let's take a look again at Wesley Tullis's definition of a mobilizer. I love it. Mobilizers are those who channel key resources, training, and vision for world evangelization to the body of Christ. And it's been said that to improperly appreciate and support the role of mobilizer is to seriously hinder the functions of goer, sender, and welcomer. So if you have been functioning in this way, regardless of what you label it, thank you. That is so important. The late Dr. Ralph Winter, man, he was an amazing missiologist and strategist and thought leader in his generation and still continues to influence many. He was so strong about trying to mobilize more mobilizers because he got it. He understood that if we have more mobilizers, then in the long run, we're going to have more praying, giving, and going type activities. He wrote that anyone who can help 100 missionaries get to the field is more important than one missionary on the field. Wow. Did he just say that? I know there's other perspectives on that. I know. But it shows how important this role is in the long run, especially. And so, right now in the global South, you have, talking about Asia, Africa, and Latin America, you have many, hundreds, if not thousands of amazing people who want to go to the hard places, feel called to the hard places. They have proven character. They have even equipping in many cases, but what they don't have is support or senders. So you can see that is a mobilization challenge. We actually really need to raise up more mobilizers, So if there's a huge fire, you want to throw your bucket of water in the fire, yes, Dr. Rolfner used to say, but if you know where 100 sleeping firemen are, you need to wake them up. And we need goers, yes, but we also need senders, and mobilizers are key in actually raising up the senders. Mobilizers are not only trumpet blowers and disciplers, they are also bridge builders. So in the body of Christ, we know about and kind of support the folks who are reaching the lost in our city. Yes, great. And we know about and kind of support the people who are called to go and stay in the nations. Yes, great. I want to propose that we need these bridge builders who are going to build a bridge between the body of Christ where it is and those who are going out to plant it where it is not. This is a key bridge building role. Go there, see what God is doing, bring back fresh reports of what God has done, inspire with telling stories, and invite key leaders to come and see firsthand what God is doing there, and build a bridge between those who go and those who are in the body of Christ. So yeah, I think Today, we need a whole lot more leaders and mobilizers who understand, yes, not everybody is called to be a missionary, but they also were working very intentionally to help everybody find their role in the Great Commission, because everybody plays. Not everybody's a missionary, but everybody plays, and we need more of these kind of people. And we've realized that actually there is a lot of training for all kinds of roles in the body of Christ. There is training for the pastors, of course. There's training for the evangelists. There's training for the missionaries. There's training for the trainers. And yet there's not so much training specifically focused on this vital role. So we've been working very hard to develop that. We're working on an e-course, Introduction to Missions Mobilization e-course. But we'd actually like to invite you to join us for a free webinar on the topic of how to inspire God's people for their global destiny. How to inspire God's people for their global destiny. And so you need to join us live for this webinar in order to connect then to other opportunities for training. So look for a link to where you can register for this free webinar and on how to inspire God's people for their global destiny. Okay? Look for that and join us live. I pray that God multiplies and blesses everything you put your hand to in this season. We need you to be who you're called to be in every facet of your life. God bless you.